The TRN BT20 Pro can make any proper wired IEMs like the Moondrop Q2, KZcaster Pros, and the Tangsu 1 or 2 to name a few into a proper TWS, where I've personally used this to replace my Moondrop Space Travel 2 and Mycadelics 5K when I'm out and about, as although they don't necessarily have ANC, extensive media controls, or any sort of app integration features unlike the other two, I prefer having my favorite IEMs in the convenient form factor of wireless, all while having the ability to go wired when I want to get some real work done. However, since you're interested in turning your IEMs into wireless, I'll be telling you all the features, sound impressions, and the quirks that they might have to tell you if the BT20 Pro's $40 or 2,400 peso non-sale price tag, a lot cheaper by the way most of the time, is worth your hard-earned money. As although these were given to me by TRN, I don't sell out and I will never do sell out. Alright, starting with the elephant in the room, let's talk features. The basic feature set of a TWS is going to be the stable Bluetooth connection, microphone for calls, and some sort of media controls. Now, on that matter, the TRN BT20 Pro ticks all three boxes with a more or less stable connection, one mic per earpiece for calls that sound like this.
Mic test, 1, 2, 3, hello. Mic test, 1, 2, 3, hello, 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 hello. Mic test, 1, 2, 3, hello, 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 hello. This is BT20 Pro mic test while walking at a busy street. This is BT20 Pro mic test while walking at a busy street.
And this is how the BT20 Pro sounds like while I'm indoors with
The fan going on behind me. So, yeah. Pretty usable stuff.
And a single button on either earpiece to play and pause, single tap answer calls, then double click to go ahead and skip tracks. But these are the bare minimum for TWS. Don't they have ANC, an app support, LDAC, or even low latency codecs? Sadly, no. And if you've watched any of my TWS videos before, you'll know that features are a big thing for me. So the only real reason why I'm actually picking these over the Moondrop Space Travel, stuff like that, or the Mycadelics 5K is their ability to make any IEM into wireless. And although they don't have a proper ANC, because of the way that IEMs work, I can pretty much get them to feel like I'm wearing proper earplugs that can rival the sad excuse of ANC present in things like the space travel. Let me explain. ANC works by providing the mirrored version of what the mic hears to cancel out majority of the outside noises. However, due to things like the space travel's lack of proper microphones, ANC can provide annoyances like wind noises while walking, clipping sounds when loud anything goes off, and the feeling of being underwater that stronger ANC implementations can actually provide, which can make the user feel nauseous. Now, provided that your IEMs and ear tips form a good seal around your ear canals, you might have gotten an equal or even better experience with wired IEMs compared to cheaper TWSs. Although what confuses me is why can't they add ANC or at least some sort of app integration via stuff like SE Walkplay, given that these are humongous, which is another pain point you have to consider. The size. That's what she said. The actual Bluetooth modules themselves look like hearing aids, I'm not gonna lie, all while having a single button that's stiff to use, a single microphone on either piece that, although comes off as usable, they could have fitted one or two more mics to at least make the microphone quality a lot better than a proper DSP chip to provide some sort of EQ capabilities. Moving on to the case, these are not easily pocketable. They're way too big where they constantly stick out of my pockets, if you're looking at this, plus because they use this semi-glossy finish on the case itself, scratches like these show up very easily. Then there's the 4 bright LEDs. Are they useful? Yes. But are they gonna blind you at night when all of the lights are turned off? Also, yes. It would have been cheap to add some sort of diffusion with a small plastic piece or at least more resistance to dim them a bit, but given that these are an older model, I can only really hope that they do an overhaul in the case department in the future. However, because the case is big and the lid is padded with EVA foam, you can keep your IEMs inside of the case without worrying about the faceplate getting scratched and such, even if they are on the larger end, which is convenient if you don't mind removing and reattaching your IEMs to a wire if you needed the wired connection. In addition to that, they also have a 1000 mAh battery which can recharge both modules 5 to 6 times from 0 to 100 in about an hour and 30 minutes, wherein the modules themselves, despite like the big form factor, are subjectively comfortable and light at around 8 grams per module and around 13.5 grams with the starfish attached to them, which doesn't really like disappear once you wore them, but they felt secured at all times. They also have an 80 milliamp battery like per module, which lasts a good like 11 to 12 hours of continuous use via Hibby Music at 70% volume and reaches about 11 hours and 30 minutes of continuous call time. Although, one potential problem worth noting in this is the shorter ear hooks, as although yes, like they feel comfortable, like subjectively, the IEMs you attach are going to be the ones that dictate how comfortable the actual experience is, where using something like the TRN Starfish feels very comfortable even after long hours of use, but things like the cranial daybreaks, which are comfortable wired, feel uncomfortable while attached to the BT20 Pro since I had to angle the IEMs and the modules themselves in an awkward position just to get them to like fit properly, which introduced some like pulling and dragging on top of these not being too friendly, like with the IEMs that have a recessed connection. So, features are more or less usable, bare bones, but usable. Case is massive but can house bigger IEMs as a like caveat to that, while offering some sort of protection for the faceplate, and has a battery which can last a week or two without charging the entire case itself, which is good. And then the modules themselves last way more than I'd be comfortable like using any sort of IEMs, and like it has some sort of sweat resistance for when you want to use them while exercising or commuting with beater IEMs with an equally secure fit are all well and good. But how about the sound? Before we get there, tell me if these are actually something that you're interested in buying, and like if I helped you decide, consider subscribing and like turning on the notification bells to support the channel. Alright, sound. Admittedly, these sounds compressed when using Android devices, whether it's using like SBC or AAC codecs. More specifically, the mids get like pushed back, making them sound like they have a mid scoop, so vocals tend to get buried in the track itself, where if I played songs like When We Were Young by Adele, I don't get like the same sensation of having the goosebumps inducing highs that I've come to know and love that track for, which isn't really helped out by the high-cut filter sound like that these provides, which removes the airy and open sensation that I get even while using something like the Daybreaks when I listen to things like Norah Jones's Don't Know Why, which is a vocal-focused like song. There's also the power issue here, where if I use this with a single DDIM like the Chutsu or the Starfish, the volume levels are on par with things like my Air 5 Pro, which is good. But when I move on to multi-driver IEMs like the Daybreaks or the Lush, they require 2 to 3 more steps up to get a similar volume, which sounds logical since multi-drivers like IEMs have multiple drivers, more drivers, sure, logical. But I observed like hissing sounds in single DDIMs like the Phoenix when using them, which is supposed to be an effect of having more powers than the drive can handle, and that could be a sign of like a potential power delivery issue and like power inconsistencies. Now, when using these with an Apple device, they don't really get as much like mid-scooped, and I get the familiar airy sound when using stuff like the Daybreaks when wired, which is weird to say the least since Android supports AAC, and there really shouldn't be any sort of like differences, I suppose, in terms of sound based on the device, since these are going to be utilizing the same Qualcomm CSR8675 chip with Bluetooth 5.3 regardless of the device or the OS. In addition to that, you can also like bring back some of the recessed mid-range via EQ through apps like Hibby Music, which has a built-in PEQ, but that's really an extra step to take, and I don't like extra steps. So, with all of that said, are the TRN BT20 Pro still going to be worth the purchase? I would still say and lean to saying yes if your goal was to simply convert an IEM you already have into wireless for like commutes and such. But if you want to purchase this plus a new IEM for the purpose of wireless sound, I advise you to get a proper TWS instead. In any case, thank you TRN Shopee for sending this out for review. That's been the TRN BT20 Pro. My name is Charles, and goodbye.